Welcome to the CEN show, where we present the voice of the community. The Community Education Network.com is a platform to aid the efforts of self and collective improvement. Our website have two podcast programs, Conscious Corner and this show, the CEN show. I want to share with everybody how to get on if they're interested in coming because it's open to the public. So here's the homepage, Community Education Network. And all you have to do, on Monday, we had Brother Cliff Pruitt, which is on the scene tonight, which is excellent. A real good show. And then he had a CEN show right here. And we have our guest tonight, which I'm going to introduce. Okay, I'm your host, Rasaki Maskani. Tonight's guest is Brother Dr. Mike, a colleague of mine. And his topic is Real Eyes, Realize, Real Lies, Determining Reality for Black Americans. Good evening, Brother Dr. Mike. How are you? And please start your presentation.
Greetings, brother. I'm so used to calling you more, but Brother Muscani, thank you to all who've assembled, who are watching, and who will watch later on. I'm appreciative of having a chance to share with all of you. What's going on? Hopefully, my screen is just my background is showing. Is that the case, brother?
Yes, your background is showing. Yes, it is.
Okay, so in talking about this concept, I thought what would illustrate it for us to kind of have a sense is Plato's allegory of the cave. And I know Dr. Braz is very familiar, and I'm sure others are, but I just want to kind of use it as a platform for us to examine the reality for Black Americans in today's date. So if you're in speaker view and you look at what I got up there, you'll notice that it's a cave where the deepest levels are dark and they're illuminated by a fire. And I think I probably want to, the screen I'm using is not good, but anyways, what happens in Plato's allegory of the cave is that there are several individuals and they're bound, they're chained so they can't move. They sit on the floor, chained together, and they all talk together about what they see in front of them. They can't see themselves. They can't see each other. All they know is that there are these images in front of them. And so as they look at the images, they talk among each other and they compete to label what's going on in these moving images that are in front of them. And the ones who can create the best description of it are kind of held out as the most knowledgeable and so forth. What they don't know is that the images are projected from behind them. There's a fire burning and people unknown to them parade objects in front of the fire which cast shadows on the wall. So you see the light from the fire and the shadows on the wall. These shadows are just reflections of the actual objects, but the viewers see them as reality. Now, those that parade the objects are told what to do by a separate group of individuals further up in the cave. They're in the light. And so they tell how the objects are to be moved. But what's behind them is a pathway up into what we call the actual sunlight or the world as in its reality. So you imagine somebody being taken out of the shackles and taken up into the world, and they would essentially be baffled and confused as to what they're seeing because their whole orientation is to the shadows. They've never seen anything else. So they're bewildered. Now, once they go up there, obviously they're going to want to come back down and and tell those that they've always talked to. But the people in the cave only know what they know. And somebody come and talk to them, tell them, hey, there's this whole other world. This is just a trick. They're gonna get very upset because this is their reality. This is what they know. This is where they get their status from. And so when you think of this situation, we literally have um, people who would kill you for telling them the new truth you've discovered, even though what they're seeing isn't anything but projections on a wall that they've given life to. It's not even the real objects that are being projected. And they don't create anything, they only know what they're subjected to. So, that Plato's allegory of the cave, obviously thousands of years old. We've looked at it in modern times in movies like The Matrix and The Truman Show, where we see uh, the protagonist become awakened to a reality they didn't know existed. So their life was what it was, and they lived it and did their thing and had friends and beliefs, and then all of a sudden that's disrupted, and they're fixed on what's real and what's tangible, and what they're anchored to is broken. Okay, so as Dr. Rob was talking, he was saying that in the 60s and 70s and different periods there wasn't the level of consciousness, and consciousness is a difficult pill to swallow. Um, I think particularly so for um, Black people in America who, were in a sense um, pulled from their reality and systematically stripped of any connection to that which was, you know, like natural to them, to that which was um, whole to them, language, traditions, culture, religious beliefs, work and family patterns, and all that. And then they were thrust into a new thing and had to, you know, accept it often by brutal coercion. Um, and then taken from that reality, the stories I've heard about Juneteenth is that in many cases, um, people who were liberated from a slave setting might not have even wanted to go because they were comfortable in that setting. They had roots there. They had connections, even if it's toxic and harmful to them. You know, this is what I know, and that's many people in general. People don't want to leave relationships because it's what they know, and they derive some sort of pleasure or status or even meaning to their life. You know, a lot of people feel like, oh, I can fix somebody, or I can I can change this, and so they stay in a toxic setting for that purpose. To That's because their rewards and their identity is tied up into it. So we have the modern um, black world, and although there's still considerable oppression, poverty, lack, discrimination, brutality, whatever, for in a lot of ways, things have changed. You know, we have professionals on the call tonight, and folks who have, you know, been in at the highest levels of universities and highest levels of jobs, and um, their community, and doing huge things. Um, People with money and relative comfort. And so when those when folks look at what's the condition of Black America, you know, there's a lot of lenses, but what is the reality? Um, I shared with Mr. Hembrick, we were talking how my feelings that we're still easily triggered by a lot of the old, what you might call tropes. Like for instance, the Raiders coach the other day, um, John Gruden, was said to have said some negative things in the email about certain marginalized groups, quote unquote marginalized, because some of the groups are some of the most powerful individuals in our society. But he said something about uh, black folks, said something about women, gays, and others, and so he was fired for something he said when he wasn't in football, and people were incensed, and you know it was a lot of cries of, you know, look how entrenched racism is and so forth. And my feeling, this is me, is that when do you know how do we determine where our outrage lies and where our prioritization lies in terms of what's real? The reason I say that is because, you know, you look at Baltimore, you look at Chicago, and weekend after weekend, you got people being cut down by bullets. You know, Baltimore, murder capital of the world. There's always a murder capital of the world. Most often it lands in one of our neighborhoods. And we have all this murder and mayhem and violence and self-destruction, but it's also fanned by a music industry that's so extremely tied up in images of conspicuous consumption, of abuse of drugs, of other human beings, of in negativity and so forth. And I'm wondering how our reality is shaped, where, you know, our outrage and our attention is often able to be steered towards like external stuff, and not really a hard look at who we are. I know Brother Moscani has long railed against the system here at our school in terms of, you know, kids being allowed to do what they want and act out, and there's no real push to have standards and accountabilities. When we talk about Centennial, this school used to be the hallmark, and it was and as an all black school, and those who are um, um, experts on the history of Compton can tell it better than I. But I understand it to have been a state leader in academics, athletics, all kind of things. It was the school, and it was an all black school, you know. And I wonder, how we get to this point of anything can happen, and we let kids can act out, and we there's no accountability, and just the things that we look at in terms of what is our reality, who's got power over us, what is our power, what is it that we even seek for ourselves, or is it us, or is somebody showing us a shadow on the wall and giving us the the identity of what to care about, what to be concerned about, what to fight for, what to strive for, what to have um re, have righteous anger about. I'm just wondering, are we looking at shadows on the wall as a community, and is there something more real that we should as a collective be oriented towards pursuing? And so this, I mean, the scope of this is endless, but I'm just putting it out there for discussion in this community, is that what are we really fighting for? And I'll say this, and I'll end my little soliloquy here. I was talking to the kids today, and I said the Notorious B.I.G. had a lyric at the start of Juicy, is the iconic song, and he said, "This goes out to all the people who called the police on me when I was hustling, just trying to feed my daughter." And I said the gravity of that statement, that he would feel that people were treating him bad for enslaving someone else's daughter to make money for his family. And I said, the audacity of that statement. All I was just trying to do is feed my daughter. No, you weren't. You was trying to get money for flashy stuff, and to do your thing and be Big Papa and all that. It wasn't just to feed the kid. Okay, you can get a job and feed the kid. That he, and the fact that he was so oblivious to the fact that someone else's daughter would be addicted to um, crack cocaine to fund your ascension out of poverty, or whatever is going on for you. And so I say that to say that he had bought in that lyric, had bought into a line of goods, that the ends justified the means, in terms of him getting out of his situation and having the life um, that he believed he should have. And so I think of that thing as a metaphor for some of the things that we all do, and rationalize and justify it based on various lenses on reality. So my question to the group tonight is, what is the reality for African Americans? What is our state of being? Are we still oppressed? Do the fact that I know so many professionals and master's degrees and opportunities and this and that, am I just kind of in the in the talented tenth, and I've left everybody behind? Or is the reality that anybody can get up, and is having possessions even a thing we should be aspiring towards? I heard Karanga mention, and in the intro to Black Studies, he talks about like 4 things that mess with the community, and it's commoditizing each other, it's conspicuous consumption, it's a lot of these pieces that are not, that on the surface seem reasonable, but at the end of the day actually end up eroding us. So what is our reality? Are we our own worst enemy? Are we looking at the right things? For instance, you know, even with the pandemic, you could say we've had bigger problems way before that by our own hand, eating all the wrong foods, you know, being cigar and cognac persons, you know, living kind of a indulgent lifestyle and so forth. And so, are we doing the things we need to bolster ourselves, mind, body, and spirit? And what are the challenges in charting our course? So I'll leave it with that. It was a lot I threw at you. Hopefully it painted a broad picture that people could tap into and come up with some thoughts of their own. But where are we at in this cave journey? And are we ever going to see the light and get to our truth? And I'll stop there.
Okay, well, let me, we have Brother Cliff back from Monday. So I want to start with him and then I'm gonna go to Sister Aziza. So Brother Cliff, you can unmute. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brother Cliff, so you want to respond to Dr. Baisley's question, Brother Mike? And if you have a question for him, you could ask a question of him.
Right now, I really don't have a question, but I would like to thank the brother for presenting the scenario the way that he did, because one thing that Black people really don't want to do is talk about cleaning ourselves up. Whenever the messenger comes to somebody, the people always stone the messenger. But the brother is right. We have to take responsibility for what we do and for what we say, and especially when you get into the limelight, like a person like Biggie Smalls, and everybody in the world is listening to you. You have a responsibility
Yes, sir.
to do the right thing. So I'm pleased with what the brother's saying, and I'm glad that he put it in the context of the cave, because a lot of this behavior does come from the cave mentality and of being captivated by the slave master. So we have to get out of that mentality. And I thank you, brother, for trying to lead the charge to get our people to clean ourselves up. I appreciate you.
All right, thanks, Brother Cliff.
Yes, sir.
Sister Aziza.
Yeah, I was gonna say, great presentation. I love the analogy, but I don't particularly know how to but
Okay, we can barely hear you now, Sister Aziza.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me a little better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Sorry about that. I was saying I love his analogy and it was great content. I just don't particularly know how to answer his question, or I just don't have an answer for that question.
Okay.
For great content.
We could come back to you later if you want to, share some information, or you could actually ask him a question too.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And before you go to other panelists, Brother Muscani, I want to give credit for the title of this thing to Brother Dr. Anthony Samad. He's one of my fraternity brothers, and he wrote a book. He titled his book "Realize, Realize, Realize," and he's a very important source on Black issues. He holds this Black issues forum, or had before COVID. Very, very influential voice in the community. So I just wanted to give him credit for that title.
Okay, can you mention his name again in his book?
Brother Dr. Anthony Samad, and he's a figure in LA. um, politics and social scenes. He directs the Mervyn Diamond Institute at Dominguez Hills. So he does his thing. And it's realize, 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 real eyes that see clearly and consciously, realize are awakened to the real lies, like what's truth and what's the real lies, even the stuff that sounds truthful but is a lie. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, brother doctor.
Yeah, I just agree with everything he says, man. You gotta understand, man. Everybody has their own opinions, perceptions, and beliefs. It's just like the other night with the brother Pruitt. I think the problem is no one believes that they've been harmed, man, or been oppressed. As long as you get up and go to work, come back home, everybody think everything's okay. So until we all feel that pain, which we're talking about here, it's always going to be like that. Basically, good question what brother Mike is talking about, man. This is just how it is. It's just life, man. Everybody's doing their thing. Everybody's caring about themselves, not really caring about other. We're celebrate one moral victory that white man gives us, and think that's we're okay now, just to please us. But everybody has their own thing, man, and that's the problem. No one, we was asking a question about being oppressed. I think that's the problem, and no one thinks they're really oppressed, man. So it's always going to be that, man, until we all get on that, that same level. Always going to be the same. As like one brother said the other night, talking about reality, man. It's just reality. It's always going to be like that. That's it.
All right, thanks. Brother Hembrick.
Yes, sir. Appreciating what the doctor has presented, although I wish he'd have used a comedic analogy instead of a Greek one, but I understand. So I only give him 99% until he drops that Greek stuff.
Yeah, Plato stole it
Yeah, exactly.
from Alexandria. I got it. I just couldn't cite the source.
Well, I just want the people to know that all that philosophical stuff that these Greeks present, along with their fraternities and sororities, is straight up borrowed or stolen from African stuff. So, which is the root of our problem, in my opinion, with with the stuff that you presented. Just like the doctor was saying about the mind thing, about everybody being out for themselves. Well, that's the European side of the brain that we've been grilled into thinking of. There's another side that's more collective that we need to get into. And I love what you said about the mind, body, and spirit, because that's what we need to work on. First, the mind, to to discard all the stuff that we've
How you doing, Ryan?
slave master. And I'm going to say that, until we do that, we're always going to be in this kind of a flux. Everything that we've gotten from him, family structure, how you treat your family members, our religion, our politics, our value system, all of that, even on the economic scale, that's not the way our people, operated. We operate on a barter trade. Money is the root of all evil, as they say. But until we met them, there wasn't that thing about the exchange of money. It was the exchange of goods and services. You do this for me and I'll do that for you. That way there's no money involved. And that's another way how we can bridge the gap between Black people throughout the diaspora. But as long as we continue to commit cultural genocide by practicing this man's stuff, thinking that's it, because actually you're following a fool, following a thief, a murderer, and a fool. And all these values that we've adopted that the doctor was saying exist in Chicago and throughout Baltimore and LA and any large Black area is this self-destructive stuff. Because that's all we know. Actually, we got that from him. He was the first gangbanger himself. Over in Europe, before they even came over here, they was fighting each other over colors in Greece. Doctor, you might be hip to that with the green and it wasn't blue and red, it was blue and green. But anyway, a lot of our people don't know this stuff, and that's why it's so important for us to start to teach these youngsters. Because the old guard, it's hard to come out of your comfort zone. And most adults are working trying to make it and really ain't got time to think about these things that we're talking about. They're trying to feed their family and get to work and make sure their kids are going to school and all of that. But the problem with that is most of the kids, at least in Compton area, are not even with a family. They're in a group home, foster home. So it's really in a dismal state. And, but we got the resources to recover ourselves if we would just, unite first in mind. And then with the body, we got to get ourselves healthy because we're dying like crazy over the stuff we eat and drink and consume. And then we can get into the spirituality of Africans also, which is totally different from this borrowed religious stuff that people be alluding to. And I hate to bust people's bubble about all this Christianity and Islamic and Hebrew stuff. All of that stuff was stolen from African stuff. And the folks that stole it put a twist on it and got us all tripping. That's another reason why, we won't get off our butt and do something, because we think we're gonna be delivered by something that ain't gonna never come. It's another allegory, as you say. And you don't have to take my word, you can do the research yourself, which I did on the first show that I did that's called Know Thyself. And until we get to that stage where we know ourselves, we're lost. We got some good programs coming up, like what Brother Pruitt is doing. But I haven't heard him kind of allude to, so some of the Christian things and whatnot. Some of the principles are fine and dandy, but the stories are allegories. And I also mentioned, I'm gonna say this, so if you want to go to a story like that, you need to go back to the original, which is Isis, Osiris, and Haru. That was 4,100 years before Jesus and them came along, and there was 14 others in between that time. So we got to realize, I like what you said, Doctor, where it come from off the plantation. And it's real lies, because it's lies. But, they put a movie on called The 10 Commandments, and, our Black people huddle under the television thinking stuff is true, and it's not. And as a people, we need to get out there in nature, because that's our thing. We're a people of nature. And the people we got it from, nature was stingy up there where they came from. And that's why they're so savage and vicious like they are. But anyway, I ain't gonna take up all the time. I just want to throw those points out there. And anybody can go back and check out my show, Know Thyself 1 and 2, and get the reference material that I mentioned that'll back up all that I've said. I ain't saying what I believe, I'm saying what I know. So anyway, appreciate you, brother Dr. Mike and Brother Rascani for the privilege to speak.
Thank you.
All right, Brother Henry, way to go there. Right, give us that information that we've been missing. All right, so now I want to share something before I get to Professor Ra. On communityeducationnetwork.com, we got a section called Perspective Writings by yours truly, Roski Mascani. It's just perspectives, my thoughts. And on the line of what Brother Hendrick was saying, I have this poem right here. It's called Why Do You Chase the Devil? And I extended it by explaining each line. So I think if people could go and view that, then you could get a kind of a gist of what Brother Hendrick was talking about. You know, why are we trying to be like something that enslaved us, that has done so much negative things to us? Why are we even trying to be like that? And I know that I've been in my ways back, you know, some years ago, doing things that was counterproductive. And this is why I had to make a change. And then I think Brother Doctor mentioned something earlier, or was that brother? I think it was Brother Doctor. We you know, when in Brother Cliff, we try to justify our actions so we can make ourselves feel good, even when your actions are incorrect. You're going to look for ways to explain yourself why you're doing something that's incorrect, instead of just saying, I accept what I did was wrong and I'm gonna do better. You know, we look to justify our bull crap. I don't want to use the the other term. So I was gonna write a perspective paper on that, but I haven't yet. It's called Action Justification. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, Brother Ra, gotta unmute.
Brother Johnny, appreciate what's been said, if I understand correctly. I want to say Asante Sana to Brother Mike for his presentation and his thoughts, and Asante for him asking us to, you know, ask him questions, and I'll give our comments on what he said. You know, I been in a struggle a long time, you know. And one thing we taught through the Taoist philosophy is look for the positive aspects of our movement. Don't generalize all Black people. Like white folks just tore up their own capital. They had one of the biggest things that they've done to each other, the Civil War. Their Revolutionary War was against each other. Their Civil War was against each other. The Cold War between Russia and America, you know, the Japanese and Chinese fighting, and North Korea and South Korea. And we don't say, well, why ain't they unified? Why ain't they working together? White folks kill each other all day, which is, they still looking for Gabby's killer, you understand? And everybody said, why white people ain't killing each other? But they have taught us to generalize our identity and make it look like we, like Tellus 4 and Star Trek, we're not doing anything. We have a history of struggle and achievement. Brother Hendrick just sent out a video about the DNA, why Black people excel once they're given the opportunity out of segregation, racism, and oppression. We excel. You know, we've had 100 at one time 100 Black colleges that helped educate Black people. We had the Freeman Bureau. You know, we've been struggling for ever since we've been here. We struggled on the ship against slavery. We didn't just walk in and say, okay, enslave me. We struggled on the continent with wars, with Shaka Zulu, Nzinka, and our brothers and sisters did the best they could with what they had. And because so we've had some bad lost a few scrimmages don't mean the war is over. It's a continuum. You had Compton High, some brothers that was in an organization called Yahweh Ben Yahweh. You had the Black Moors and Kareem Denifu Kareem, still active. You had the Black Israelites under Yusuf Ben Israel. He took Black people back to Israel. You had the about 5 different Black Muslims group, 3%, 5%, Nation of Islam, Al-Islam, Black people doing something. They're not just, it's not all of us are not conscious. You can know your history. The question is, did you learn from it? And did you put what you learned into practice? White folks know their history. They don't stop them from stealing, lying, and killing each other. You understand? Just knowing your history don't do it. When I taught in juvenile hall, people used to say, wow, is this our next generation? Well, if you just look at juvenile hall, yeah, but you're not looking at those Black people that's in college, those Black people that just won the Rhodes Scholar, those Black people that just excelled in medicine and science, and the space shuttle never would have got off the ground if it wasn't for them sisters, and the brother that developed the camera to go in the space shuttle, and the brother that developed the whole cockpit, and the same thing with Apple. You understand? John Moon, he wasn't a football player, although he's the one that developed the double drive for Apple. They built a whole building for him in Simi Valley, and after all his jazz artists, for his contribution to getting it off there. Not counting all the minerals and resources we have in the continent of Africa, but the #1 resource is us as a people, and that's what we fight for. So you can keep on going. Yeah, you look at the struggle in Ferguson over Michael Brown. You got city councilmen, you got a congresswoman that grew out of that struggle. I mean, they struggled all about 7 or 18 days close, tearing up the city over them killing that brother. That's not Black people not doing anything. You understand? They changed Ferguson. They changed laws in Ferguson. And the same thing, and one of the biggest things that showed that we could come together was the Million Man March. And we celebrating this, 20-something year or more the Minister Farrakhan called together. Millions of Black people come together. They got a mission statement. They took a pledge. It was a day of absence. Black people from around this country got involved in it. It inspired other Million Man marches, Million Woman March, Million Youth March, 1,000-man march, 100-man march, all over. It stimulated. That's Black people doing something. Not just, being, I'm just Uncle Tom, I ain't doing nothing and I'm just lazy. The Million Man March was Montessorian. And nobody want to talk about it. White men don't put it on TV, so we don't talk about it. But that was a great event that Black people put on, and nobody got shot, nobody got killed. They didn't storm the Capitol, and they had 2 major ones. I helped develop the second one. I went to Washington, D.C., at the Dorothy Height Center that they just opened up. Me, Dr. Karenga, and a bunch of other individuals from across the country, and we planned it. It was going to be called the Million Man Continent, but we changed it to the Million More Movement. And because Black consciousness superseded the spirituality aspect of it. You understand? We say, like, this is a movement. It ain't just about a covenant religion. But anyway, with that. And then we have the reparations movement. There are about 10 different reparation groups that's out there working hard to try to get reparations, not counting John Conyers' Bill H.R. 40 that since 1989, he kept submitting it. Now Sheila Lee is doing it. That's Black people doing something. You understand? It's more fractionalized. Look at all the police reform groups that's out there in LA, all over the country, young people trying to say, hey, the police, you need to take money from the police and put it into different things, health, mental health, and all of that, helping the homeless. all of that. That's a movement. You understand? And the traditional civil rights groups are still strong. NAACP, Urban League, CORE, Action Network. These are people doing things. They're struggling in their own way for what they believe. It's not that they just, we just, are helpless and not doing things. And you go with the Black cultural groups, the US organization, the National Black United Front, the Republic of New Africa. All these people, brothers and sisters, are working hard. They give conferences, they educate, they committed to the struggle and for what they believe in. Pan-African Secretariat of the Republic of what was that? All African Revolutionary Party by Kwame Ture. You understand? Not counting progressive Black churches. All Black churches aren't ripoffs and just gospel of prosperity and confusion. Some of them do some strong things. Willie Wilson out of Washington, D.C., you understand? He helped organize the Million Man March. So, there's a lot of ministers, some have churches, some don't, that are in the movement, that are doing some outstanding work. But yeah, there's some churches that abuse Black people and just use them for money and talking about they're gonna go to heaven and gonna fly away without an airplane. Yeah, they got all that. But then there are others that use spirituality as a motivating thing to deal with social issues as well. They've got breakfast programs, food giveaways, clothes giveaway. That's Black people doing things. And then, you got Black veterans group, Black motorcycle organization. Yeah, and one of the most global movements was after George Floyd death with the Black Lives Matter movement, that everybody's borrowing that. Now they're talking about transgenders lives matter. You understand? They borrow our songs, they borrow our slogans, and they incorporate them in their movements all around the world. That's our influence on the world as a people. So I'm just saying that it's good that we point out that there are lies, but everybody ain't took by the lie. Everybody don't want to be white. Everybody's not shooting each other. Everybody's not doing. Some Black people are doing. Some Black sisters are coloring their hair purple, green, yellow, white. Some brothers is wearing earrings and sagging. But everybody's not doing that. You wouldn't let your kids do it. And there's a lot of Black people that don't. You go all the way back to the Deacons for Defense. You go back, we've been struggling and struggling. And I'm just saying that, brother, you bringing out a good point. For young people, they need education, they need consciousness, and the primary education unit is the home. And as Brother Henry pointed out, a lot of them don't have a family that can provide that education. That's why they call them households instead of families now. And so my point is, because we don't know what's going on. My major point is that I agree with what Brother Mike is saying, that there's a lot of confusion out there with identity, culture, and consciousness. There's a lot of crabs in the barrel, but it's not all Black people. Some of us are promoting each other. Some of us are working and have a deep love for the movement and the struggle. And we have to point that out as well as the problem. Every group has problems. Why everybody think all of us got to come together? It's difficult trying to build unity and build it. It takes a lot of work. I done tried 100 times with different organizations. You understand? People come up with all kinds of wild reasons. You say we're gonna have a unity meeting. First thing somebody say, well, if they come, I ain't coming. You know what I mean? Well, how are we gonna have a unity meeting? If they come, you ain't coming. No, that happens, but you march on. That's what the song say. That's what our theme song is. March on till victory is won. That's the only thing I'm saying. Asante for the presentation. There you go.
Excellent, Brother Ra. All right, brother, Dr. Mike, do you want to leave us with something here?
Oh, wow. Time is done flown. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That the assessment, all of the assessments, have been very powerful. And I think, part of what I heard when I was listening to Professor Rod talk, and, and, and share kind of that perspective is that it almost seems like we need a return to kind of a interview of us. A lot of our, where we're going is dictated from the outside. And like you mentioned, the family, like, Moscani, when, as we look around here, in our daily life, dealing with the youth, we see that lack of family. We see how, we have to take on the role of parent all day, and all of us present, and we're and to co-sign another thing Ross said, we are not a monolith. Like, I approach it in a very different way than you do, but we're both integral to what's going on, and some kid finding their anchor point with someone they can relate to. I think as long as we're headed towards a solid goal, and I think what Mr. Hembrick said is kind of the big thing is a natural state of mental, spiritual, and physical health, and awareness and connection with ourselves. I just think my point was certainly not that we haven't had a centuries of excellence and work towards goal. A superhuman effort has been made to survive, not only survive, but thrive. And, I think when you say that not everybody is not doing well or not being productive, I think most people are. I think most of us are going somewhere, but it's almost like our efforts are scattered. It's almost like I see ants going and they're on point, and then you step on them and they scatter. And I think we're in a scatter point right now, that there's no clear and natural and organic movement towards a real goal that we can all kind of work with. And I think it's the dignity of simplicity, that I think a lot of the things that plague us are not these hyper blown out narratives about Black pathology and all this. I think we're super healthy as a people. And sometimes that's why the lie is that we're not able to struggle and build and create and organize and work together despite differences towards that. I think there are a lot of things injected to keep us thinking it's the situation is worse than it is. Like I said, we're all on here professionals, all kind of advanced degrees and all that. And I don't think we see ourselves as we really are. I think we're sometimes watching the movie and not able to really see that we're on the cusp of exponential growth towards who we can be. I think, it's almost like he mentioned the 5%ers. And when I first learned about, I think it's Clarence 13X and and the idea that you have the poor righteous teachers, the 5%, but the 10%, like obscuring the 85 from getting the knowledge of self that will allow them to really see where we're going. And so I really kind of connect with the you know, the mathematic, true math movement in that regard, because we do have the power within ourselves to be great. And I'm wondering, are we connecting with the power within ourselves at the level we need to do the things, to be there for our communities, to be there for our families, to be there for the things that really matter, and propel ourselves. So I think if I say anything, I just want us to find that lens that allows us to see the power within us and to see how great we actually are, which is sometimes obscured by almost a victim, you know, a narrative of victimhood that we can't do it. You know, there's this high school in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, where they stopped giving Fs because Black kids can't excel. And so we have to, you know, let folks take tests 50 times and can't deal with behavior or none of this. And I'm like, that's BS to me. Black kids can sit there and be scholars and do it. And it happened. That's why I mentioned Centennial off top, because there was a time at Centennial where we were tops without question. It was an all Black high school. And I think somehow we've been fragmented away from our ability and greatness, you know, by someone else providing a narrative that we can't achieve, that we are pathological. I was in a training today on implicit bias, and the guy said, you know, how does society see Black men? All these people saying, oh, we're bad and evil and violent and all this stuff. I'm like, who believes that? He said, yeah, you don't believe it, but society believes it. I'm like, that's a damn lie. For me, that's a lie. Society loves Black people. We're the greatest, Black men especially. If you ask anybody who they love, it's a Michael. You know, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Michael somebody. And so I took a lot of resentment at someone trying to posit that everybody sees Black men as pathological, because I don't know who that is. The worst kid here I see as like my own. And they may be a fool, but I'll find a way to deal with them. And you know, that's been, and Mr. Hembrick knows, me and him sat in that dean's office for many years talking to these young guys. And you know, nobody's gonna be perfect overnight, but never did we see that. And I don't think people outside of us still see that. I think it's pushed and presented that we can't. And that's kind of what I was getting about the lies, is there's this image of who we are, where we're at in the struggle, that we often take in and say, yeah, that's it, we can't get ahead. And we don't see how we're responsible for damn near everything being great in this country. We have a hand in it, and we are great. So that's kind of, so when I was listening to the counterpoints, I wanted to make sure it's understood that I think our greatness and who we are is the sunshine, and we're still being presented this shadow on the wall that suggests that we can't. And I'm saying, you know, can we escape from that position and start to look at new dynamics? So I'll leave it there.
Excellent, Dr. Brother Mike. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so we're gonna end it this evening, and I want to ask Professor Ra, what is our topic for Conscious Corner on Monday?
I'm trying to contact Mike Hopwood, and we're going to deal with racism in sports, and he's going to talk about how they treated Compton High after they won 66 games straight, and CIF didn't even recognize them. Mike Hopwood, you know, that was Larry Hollifield and Ronaldo Brown, and them. They started it off, and then the next year, the next team won. And then they went on to Compton College, and some of them players, and they won the state championship their first year, undefeated with Newman as coach. And we're going to talk about racism in sports, period, because what this Gruden, as Brother Mike just brought up, as well as Culminac, and the issues that, you know, the black sports demonstration in solidarity of Black Lives Matter this year, and the discrimination and ownership, and then in key positions of sports, because it's a big organization. People just look at the team, but behind every professional and collegiate team, there's administrations, there's counselors, there's assistants, there's trainers. There's a lot of just discrimination and institutional racism and stereotyping that we're going to bring out, and what has been done to overcome it by some athletes, sisters retiring to help a brother get out of prison, out of her pro careers. Some people buying partial ownership of certain teams, you know, and just this. I remember Brokaw did a special, the Black Athlete, super Black Athlete, a myth, and he argued. He went all the way to Africa studying Black athletes, and came back, you know, that there's something unique about us. And then that whole book by Malachi Andrews, Psycho-Blackology, all about the kinesiology of Black people, why they perform athletically, and people like you say, it's natural talent, but all your physical movements is connected to your brain. I don't care, whatever you say. Your arms just don't start running fast because you got physical structure, because everybody like Hussein out of Jamaica would be running as fast as him. They look like him, but it's connected to your intellectual aspect. Some people, they say, oh, Black people like Reverend Jackson, they got a glib tongue. Well, his tongue is not hooked up to his shoulder. His tongue hooked up to his brain. You understand? And getting back to the grading, I was at Cal State Long Beach. I graded the way I wanted to grade. I didn't flunk no Black people. It was reparations. You understand? I graded because I had the power. And I saw how white people, and I wasn't, I got it. I saw how white people treated their people. The society wouldn't be sick if they didn't pass sick people. Mm. All these doctors of sociology and psychology, and they just as crazy. They need a doctor. So I don't even want to. I don't even want to start teaching. But hey, I love it. I love the movement. I get up in the morning. It's a good day to struggle. It's a good day to fight for the betterment of us as a people. It's a good day to be an example of Black manhood. You know, and no drugs, no alcohol.
Yes.
No fighting, no argument.
Yes.
You know, none of that. You know, and willing to listen to people's views, even if I don't agree with them. You understand? I mean, that's patience and understanding. That's learning from each other. Asante Sana. So I hope I can pitch Mike Hopwood. Even if he don't show up, we're going to talk about that, because I got a good brother on, two good brothers. One would been a great coach, Brother Hembrick, Brother Rashiki, a ball player, and Brother Cliff Pruitt, who's been played all over in Switzerland and everywhere. So we're going to have a beautiful discussion.
Yes, sir.
All right, if Hopwood don't show up.
Okay. Excellent, Professor Rob. All right, next week on this show, we got Brother Thomas coming back. And the topic is, listen to this, athletics and entertainment, the destruction of the Black warrior class and the freedom fighter. So Brother Tommy gonna come with us
Uh-oh.
next week. So that's gonna be a good one. All right. So I appreciate everybody on here. Dr. Mike, excellent as always. And we're gonna keep doing this, and we want you to get back on here with some other topics. So I'd
Man,
like to thank,
thanks for having me, man.
oh man, it's my pleasure and it's our pleasure to thank everybody for coming and being a part of the Community Education Network show. So, all right, everybody, each one teach one in Conscious Corner.
All right. Great program again, everybody. Hotel.